Okay, the current situation, the healthcare labour market in the UK is undergoing some major changes at the moment, mainly due to Brexit, the COVID pandemic, impending compulsory vaccinations, and the increase from jobs in other sectors. ITV News reported in September of this year that the care sector is facing the worst staffing crisis in history, following a survey that it conducted in conjunction with the UK Home Care Association, and that was done across 843 home care providers. 78% of those providers reported experiencing major difficulties in recruitment, with many saying that their services were literally at breaking point. Over 30% reported that they are handing back all or some services because they can no longer fulfill their contracts. Recent analysis by the Health Foundation suggests we need over 600,000 additional care workers in the UK in the next decade to meet needs, and that's on top of the 1.5 million we already have. So that's the situation as it stands at the moment. I don't know if anybody has read the BBC News report that was published overnight, basically backing that up again. And saying that, we are right across the industry, right across the healthcare sector, companies, the NHS, local authorities, private care providers, care homes, everybody is finding it really difficult to recruit and retain staff at the moment. Our own experiences of recruitment over recent months is showing these deficits are accurate and reflective of the market situation. So what we do is we have a lot of analysis work done on our recruitment pipelines. We recruit all over the UK for experienced support workers, as well you may know. And we've had a look at trends in impressions on our adverts, number of applications over the last 2 years, throughout the pandemic, and as we're now coming out of the pandemic. And the results are pretty stark and actually mirror what is being reported in the news. So to give you an example, in January 2019, we had over 250,000 click impressions on the adverts that we're posting throughout the UK. Okay, that has fallen to 150,000, so 100,000 less in 2 years. Okay, with applications down from over 700 a month to around 275 a month.
Just to point out, I mean, an important factor here to note is that over the course of that 3-year period, our marketing and advertising budget has actually doubled. So it used to be a general rule of thumb, the more money you throw at something, the more results you saw. But that, particularly in this sort of market, isn't the case. It is, the budget is being utilised, but it's being utilised by fewer people, and we're seeing fewer people at the end coming out.
Okay, and these advertising campaigns are based on approximately 40 adverts posted at any one time across the UK looking for experienced support workers. So, it's not just, I suppose the point we're trying to get across here is what is being reported is actually what we are seeing in the real world in terms of advertising and recruiting in the sector that we all work in. We advertise on the UK's major recruitment platform, where employers have access to detailed recruitment information called Hiring Insights. We can view the data in quite a lot of detail on the total number of jobs posted in that locality, the sector category of those jobs, the average pay rate for jobs in that sector, and the number of applicants viewing and then applying for jobs in each sector. All of these insights can be viewed across the time range of the last few years. What we're seeing consistently, as a consistent picture right across the country from the insights that we're taking from the recruitment platforms, is that the healthcare market is very, very competitive at the moment. The number of jobs being posted is increasing, and it's increasing quite substantially. But the number of people applying for those jobs is decreasing, and the average pay for those jobs is increasing as well. So the overall picture is there's more jobs, less people applying, and the pay and conditions associated with those jobs are going up and up and up. What are the reasons for these changes? Well, Brexit has undoubtedly had an impact, with the number of EU nationals coming to the UK for work in the care sector decreasing. And we think the pandemic's had an impact in four discernible ways, really. Workers are not as keen to want to work in what is deemed as high-risk settings. The creation of vaccine centres and their resource requirements. As you know, vaccine centres are popping up and have popped up in the last year all over the UK. They need staffing. They're typically staffed from healthcare assistants, support workers, who are then trained in giving inoculations and vaccinations. And that's certainly had a pull on the number of support workers that want to work with challenging ABI clients or spinal injury clients right across the UK. I think fatigue, exhaustion and underappreciation following the pandemic is playing a part, particularly people that were working in the NHS that might have come out to the community setting rather than coming out to a community setting from the NHS. Now they're looking at different careers. And the potential of mandatory vaccinations for all care workers is undoubtedly going to have an even further impact as well, if indeed that is brought in. The increased competition in other employment markets is another big factor. I mean, just to give you one example, Amazon are currently offering between a 1,000 to 2,000 signing on bonus across the vast majority of even their most low-level positions. They're offering to fund education, and they're increasing hourly pay rates from what they were offering to what they're now having to offer. In the Tory party conference last week, we had Boris Johnson claimed a high wage and high skilled economy was being created in the wake of Brexit and the pandemic. And that is certainly something we're beginning to see, not just across healthcare, but if you look at what's happened in recent weeks and months with HGV drivers, their hourly pay rate has suddenly gone up from £16 an hour to £24 an hour, £25 an hour, literally overnight. And that is realistically what is going to be happening in the healthcare market. So we feel that the trends we're seeing currently are only going to become more acute in the next few years. This is inevitably going to lead to the costs of care increasing across the board as the pay rates for skilled care and support workers increases. We're predicting a 15 to 20% increase in labour costs just to continue to be able to not only effectively recruit for new packages, but also to retain current care teams. The healthcare labour market will become even more susceptible to supply and demand economics over the next few years. So I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but pay increases, hourly rate increases right across the healthcare market, I think, is what everybody is going to be experiencing in the next few years. The largest employer of healthcare staff in the UK is, of course, the NHS. Support workers in the personal injury rehab sector would typically be band 3 workers on the NHS Agenda for Change pay scale. This band 3, the annual salaries range between 20,300 per annum to 21,777, which equates to an hourly rate of between 10.41 and 11.16 per hour. In order to ensure that care teams in the community setting can be recruited and retained effectively as an industry, we need to be paying significantly more than the equivalent NHS rate due to the often challenging nature of the clients that we work with and the complex family dynamics actually that our care and support teams work within. Pay rates are going to have to increase from a fairly standard industry personal injury market rate of between 11 and 12 pound an hour to a starting point of probably 14 pound an hour. Okay, we are seeing that the rates we're advertising at, whereas before the last couple of years 11, 12 pound an hour was probably the right rate to attract the skills and experience that are needed in the market that we work in. The starting point is having to be 14 pounds an hour and upwards. Okay, and I think if anybody directly is trying to recruit care teams at the moment, or you're working with other care providers, you will see that this is going to be the case across the board. So what does this mean for the clients that we all support? Well, clients with settled claims are going to struggle to ensure their compensation can cover their care costs and meet the needs of their client over their lifetime. Clients that are approaching final settlement need to have the increase in care costs that we're predicting reviewed and factored in. This needs to be looked at now and have the 15 to 20% added to whatever they're putting forward in the litigation claim for care costs. Okay, clients that choose to directly recruit will find it increasingly more difficult. It's going to take longer, and you'll be competing against companies that spend thousands each month on sponsored job board advertising to attract workers from an ever decreasing pool. It's going to become more and more difficult to directly recruit care staff. Small care providers or care providers that are currently struggling to staff full rotas will continue to struggle, putting additional strain on other team members already in place and decreasing the stability of that team over time. If company or if clients have providers in situ, they're already struggling to cover shifts, it isn't going to get better quickly. There isn't going to be a quick fix. And all the time that is going on, the team members that are in there at the moment are going to be asked to cover more and more shifts. They're going to get tired, they're going to get fatigued. Eventually, over time, they will leave and find other work as well. It's something that everyone needs to be aware of. Clients with existing teams can expect the cost of their care to increase, or you will lose team members to more commercially attractive roles. So, for example, we might have a settled care team that's been in place for the last 3 years. Okay, they may all at the moment be paying £12 an hour, but when they see, and they undoubtedly will see, adverts for new staff, not only for us, but for other roles in the industry being advertised at £14, £15 an hour, right? No matter how loyal to a company or client they are, if the cost of fuel's going up, the cost of food's going up, the cost of everything at the moment seems to be going up, they're going to need to make ends meet. And that kind of tie with the client or the company they're working for can only stretch so far. Discharge timeframes for discharging clients from rehabilitation settings back into the community may take longer to recruit those care teams to get them home in some instances. Okay, so that's also something to be aware of and factor in. So in summary, the healthcare labour market is currently experiencing its worst crisis in recent history due to the range of factors that we've been discussing. The inevitable result of these changes is an increase to worker pay right across the board, not just for new clients, but also existing clients as well. Continuity of care and support must be maintained in the best interest of all clients, and the only way everybody is going to achieve this is to pay for it, unfortunately. That's the bottom line. Market forces and economics beyond anyone's control is making this essential. We felt that it's right to bring this to everyone's attention in order to ensure everyone is as prepared as possible to be able to meet the needs of all the valued clients that we support, and we will continue to do so in the future. Okay, that's kind of the end of the brief presentation. What I'd like to do is just open this up now to everybody on the call and get your thoughts and to have a general
experiences of
discussion
what-
and your experiences of what you're finding at the moment. Who would like to go first, if anybody?
I'm happy to go first.
Hi, Karen.
Hi, I'm Karen Hill. I'm the HR manager at HCML, and I've got Stuart Butler, who works with me for our corporate health, who heads up our corporate health team as well. And we've been messaging each other briefly during this webinar, and it's all making complete sense. I have to say, I think we've noticed everything that you've said. It is becoming increasingly competitive. So I'm particularly interested in the what you said about people who are recruiting directly, which is what we are generally doing at the moment, are going to struggle more. And I'm interested to hear what other people are doing in terms of which providers people are working with. Really, any help that we can get in terms of actual sourcing candidates and working with partners.
Okay. I mean, obviously we are one of many providers out there.
Yeah.
So, we are still successfully recruiting, not in as large numbers as we would like, but with the increase in pay that we have applied to our adverts recently, Karen, we are finding we are still getting the skills and experience through. Okay. It's just not at a rate that we would previously have advertised at.
Yeah. And what do you find are particular benefits that people are finding particularly attractive? If we're looking at the kind of things that you're hearing from candidates, what are the kind of additional, whether it's salary or additional perks that people are interested in?
We haven't done an awful lot on the perk side of things, Karen, purely because from the people that we speak to regularly, money talks at the moment. That is their primary focus. We certainly haven't done too much around the benefits side of things, purely because the nature of the workforce in the healthcare market is fairly transient anyway. Okay. You have to be able to offer the perks and benefits, to make it financially viable for you as a company. You have to know that these people are around for the long term, certainly from a provider point of view. So it's really focusing on being able to attract the right skills and experience for the right money, and if they're getting that, then you have a better chance of people staying and not moving.
Right. So you think it's purely down to basic salary rather than anything else, flexible working or anything like that?
See, flexible working, I don't, from a provider point of view, when we've got shifts that need covering from on a 24/7 2-to-1 care package from 8 in the morning to 8 in the evening, you've got to be there from 8 in the morning to 8 in the evening. There is no flexible working. You can't just come along at 10. So it's not something that really works, I don't think, in our industry, because the clients that everyone supports, they need staff, they need them there between specific times of the day in most cases. Right.
So it's just as simple as we need to up the pay. It's not about coming up with fancy incentives or work life well-being at work initiatives and all this kind of thing. It's just money talks, is your perception, is it?
That is our perception. I mean, we have a well-being program. We have all these sort of things set up. We have, as a company, we have all this. People generally don't take much advantage of it as possibly they should. Okay, it's not a bigger pool. If you're a support worker, you're looking at a job board, there are an awful lot of jobs on it. you know, the first line they see is each company's job. On it will be a job title, a location, and a salary. If the salary doesn't jump out at them, they're not even going to click.
Yeah.
So they're not going to find out what the benefits are. They're not going to find out there may be innovative things that they can avail of. It's actually, are they even going to click on it in the first place? Finding information out. And unless the salary is attractive, you're not going to get that impression count up.
Yeah. Okay.
Anybody else? Dan, what's your experience of the market at the moment? I know you're quite...
Well, I mean, just following on from what Karen was sort of asking there, the way that we've always positioned ourselves in the market is to go for the people with the necessary skills that can come in and do the job from the moment that they are compliant to do that. Some other smaller providers or smaller companies, there was one on the BBC News this morning who was a local chap who ran a sort of a dementia care service out in the community, which was more of your domiciliary type care. They have the ability to sort of take people in who possibly aren't quite as skilled and train them on the job. We have already sort of bypassed that sort of end of the market, and we are focusing on what we would consider to be the cream of the crop in terms of complex care workers who have got to the experience, who have had a level of training, and then we further their career from there with working alongside our clients and our clinical team. The research that we've done into the market is really focused on those people that we're trying to get through our doors. So what you're sort of saying in terms of benefits for support workers, Karen, might be more applicable if you do work in that sort of market where it is people that are not unskilled, but lower level skilled and maybe not complex care skilled, and then offering them a pathway up to a standard.
Okay.
Anybody else? Go on, sorry, mate.
I was just going to sort of ultimately over the course of the last 3 years, it's been and we can pretty much write off 2020 as a bit of an anomaly for everybody, I think. But that was really a change in the market that is going to continue because everybody saw the benefits of what they were doing or what else was out there. I think everybody had a bit of a reality check on their own lifestyle and everything else. So it's been a gradual decline in the number of people that have been sort of wanting to work in the care market. And now we really are at the point where it's breaking point.
I'm just looking, I didn't realise people have been messaging. Thank you for doing so. I'm just reading through some of the messages here now. Janet, you're experiencing similar things to what we're experiencing at the moment, yes?
Janet's not on there. She's there.
Janet Penny?
Hello, yes I am. Hiya.
Hiya, Janet, you all right?
Yes, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yes, good, thank you.
Sorry, I had to run into another room because it's very noisy here. That's why I've got the video off. There's people running around everywhere. Yeah, absolutely. We're just really struggling, and certainly for the last year. And we've had so many people book appointments for an interview and just not show, no correspondence, no communication at all, just let you down.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very, very fickle.
Yeah.
Some people that are applying and Kerry Ann, yeah, that's a very good point, actually. Children of school age have struggled and had to change job rules for more flexibility with actually, they never know, you know, some working parents may have to isolate if their child is, you know, been asked to do so by the school and have found it difficult to hold down essential care jobs because the clients need them at work. They're not allowed to be at work, and that has been a real struggle actually for some parents. That's a really good point. This is being recorded, by the way, so we will be able to send this out to everybody.
I was wondering about the vaccinations, and obviously you were saying that that was putting people, well, I suppose you were saying that might be putting people off, but I sort of wondered, I mean, you know, are carers in the main willing to be vaccinated or not?
I can only tell you our experience and kind of run rate on this year. We've probably got 90% of our workforce of about 250 support workers are fully vaccinated. There are probably 10% that are refusing to have the vaccination for various reasons. Now, if that is similar to what other companies are experiencing, I don't know, but I would imagine that would be fairly typical across.
That sounds fair, reasonably high.
It is reasonably, you know, we've had a reasonably good rate, and we've done an awful lot of work with our support workers, supporting them in their decision making around this. But there are still some that just point blank refuse, whether that's for social media, whether that's for fears around fertility, or whatever their reasoning is. You know, there's about 10% of our workforce that just won't have the vaccination, which if it comes in, a mandatory vaccination does come in, you're looking at a 10% reduction in our own workforce. And if that's reflected right across the market, then obviously that's only going to have a knock-on effect and make this, what we're talking about, more acute.
Thank you.
I've got another question actually, which is I'm interested in people's views as to the additional costs that companies are likely to need to incur on salaries. Do we think these should be passed on to the customer, or, you know, how are we going to manage these extra costs?
In all honesty, they're going to have to be covered. There's no two ways about it. That they're going to have to be passed on. They're going to have to be passed on to clients. They're going to have to be then passed on to insurers. Okay, which is ultimately going to increase insurance premiums. It's just the natural order of things, isn't it? It's you know, providers have to maintain a viable business. Okay, clients are, it's the settled clients really that this is going to affect in the main, I would have thought, because unsettled clients are obviously, their costs are recoverable. The insurance companies and care experts are going to have to get their heads around this changing market, and actually what has been the norm before isn't going to be the norm now in terms of care costs, and insurers ultimately are going to have to wear that, and their premiums will go up. It's the clients with settled claims that deputies are managing a finite pool of resources that this is really going to affect most, because they're not able to top up unless they can come up with some clever investment strategies for their pot of money. You know, that's the situation. It's inevitably going to have to be passed on.
Also, anybody that any providers that work with any sort of statutory services contracts or within their frameworks, they're already going to be running relatively lean anyway as an organisation. For any increase in pay to have to be borne by them and not be passed back to government funding, it's not going to be manageable. They'll be running at a lot. Every company will be running at a loss, because the margins on those sort of contracts are already so tight that it's just not sustainable. And their option will be lose the staff to organisations that are actually paying something that's more like a market standard, and have to hand back clients, or put the pay rates up and potentially lose money on every package that they're servicing. So it's a real tricky situation, and the Prime Minister's comments of higher wages and higher skilled staff is fair enough. However, the funding's got to be there to match that as well, from the local authority, from the NHS, and also in our market as well. It's going to have to go up for everybody.
Yeah. Hello, inflation, everyone.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, that's what we're looking at. I mean, we're already seeing it in supermarkets and on petrol forecourts.
Yeah.
And this is just going to be another knock-on effect. And we're not going to be the only industry, I think, to experience this. You know, we're already seeing it in transportation. We'll see it in other areas soon as well. And I think this is where, I don't know how many discussions have been had around this topic with other providers. I haven't seen many. We don't want to be the bearers of bad news, but you know, it's important that we start talking about and thinking about this sort of stuff, I think, as early as possible. Because it is inevitable. Has anybody else got anything that they would like to discuss, or any questions that they want to ask or share? No, we're all good. Well, listen, thank you all for attending. We really appreciate it. If anyone, you've all got my contact details on LinkedIn. If anyone thinks of anything that they want to ask, or you know, if anyone wants a copy of the recording of this, then please just message me and I will get that across to you. All right. Thanks a lot, everyone.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.